Tervehdys, Laura.
Terve, Otto.
And again, welcome to our dear listeners to another episode of Spirit of Sauna podcast. And before we start, I want to add to the start of the episode as well as to the end our website, saunatonttu.com, for our saunatus trainings. Mm-hmm. And it's been fascinating. We just talked before we put on the push the button on the episode that we really want to use this word saunatus now. Mm-hmm. Like we do know that we call also this training that we have like sauna healer training. Mm-hmm. Sure, it teaches you how to heal, and that's one episode, that we have to do is about parantaja, that we try to translate with this. But now we try to say, it's saunatus, and, sort of make this word known around the world that this is the Finnish traditional healing in the sauna.
Yeah, and because saunatus is quite exact, it's a very wide term that really entails a lot.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of when we talk about our work as sauna healers, saunatus describes what we do, because it's not just like a act of some physical healing or body work. It's not just being a ceremony guide or hosting a ritual. It's not just preparing the sauna and washing people. It's all
of it.
All
yeah,
of
right.
that entails all. So, and when you pronounce the word saunatus, it sort of brings all these levels and all these meanings of the work. So that's why it is sort of a word that we want to make known, as we have been sort of getting the word sauna out there.
Yeah.
Now it's time also for people to understand the saunatus entails sort of the culture of what we do in the sauna.
Indeed, and also here at the Sipo River Valley, when we have people coming in here to help us to heat the sauna, we call them as well a saunottaja. The person who attends the sauna, mixes the water, heats the smoke sauna, takes care of the löyly that
guides people how to pour löyly,
all of that. Yeah, right. So saunottaja and saunottaja is like a sauna culture specialist who also knows how to heal and do ceremony work, and saunatus is this cultural phenomenon that spans who knows how long, thousands of years probably, but we have records for the past few hundred, and we can go to these records and actually derive very interesting practices that we can use nowadays just to feel healthy. That's the aim of saunatus, and that's the aim of sauna culture in general. It is about health. But today's episode, it is about health as well, but it is inspired by our previous episode, Sauna and the Hidden Folk, and I think that was sort of the prelude to the episode today, and it will be quite, I would say, probably surprising by the end of the episode, because I think we're going to talk about UFOs today. Yes, well, so who knows where we go, but anything can happen.
Yes.
So when we talked last time, we talked about sauna and the hidden folk, and we took a close look at the elements, and if I remember correctly, we also talked about the fire element and about and the earth element, how maahinen in Finnish, maa is the earth element and earth, and how these sort of figures of these hidden folk, these small creatures, is a metaphysical truth even about the world that just gets this allegorical name. So what do you think? Like, why did the ancients have a need to sort of evoke this kind of maahinen or leprechauns or something like this? Because they seem to be in any kind of culture. What do you think?
Yeah, I think here we can really turn to children and ask them, because children have that amazing world where they don't have a problem with different levels of sort of awareness and consciousness, where the fairy tales are true as much as dreams, as much as the hug that we give to each other. So with children you can sort of understand that this is very innate in us, in living beings. The sort of describing things that words sort of fall short on. Very often life is too wondrous and amazing to be put into words. And that's where fairy tales and mythologies, come in. They can tell you these eternal tales. They can address eternal truths without the problem of how limiting words are.
Yeah, exactly. This limitation that the words impose. And it's. I think this is in the core of understanding sort of the mind of the ancient person, because comparing to children, having several children of my own, I had this first person perspective of seeing how in our culture we usually say that consciousness is the fact that you say, remember your dreams. You're able to say me. You're able to direct yourself to the future or remember the past. You can make a logical argument. You can understand letters and, make mathematical equations and all of that. But consciousness, which is in the core, in all of the episodes we talk a little bit about consciousness and mind, because this is at the core of understanding sauna culture in general and any ancient culture, health as well. So this is a problem with our culture because we're too analytical. We think that, and that's why we think about AI. Will it be conscious? And spoiler alert, it will never be conscious. It doesn't have experience and a private inner life. That's silicon chips don't do that. You need a metabolism to do that. So our culture is very confused with this. But we do get one thing right, which is that when children are about 2 years old, something happens. And there's even a test for this. There's many child psychologists do this test where they sort of cheat the little boy or girl about, need to wipe your nose. And they put a small red dot on their forehead so that the kid doesn't notice it. And then they take them to a mirror. And if the kid starts to wipe the paint out, that means they can recognize themselves in the mirror, which means they have what they call metacognition. So an ability to see themselves as persons and not just another, like a picture. So yes, we get something right. But that is just the analytical mind. Like on the side of that, until the kid grows, 10 years old, 15 years old, you have this sort of, I would say, pure consciousness. There's also a name for that. It's called phenomenal consciousness in the philosophy of mind. So putting these two together, it means we have this sort of primordial way of understanding the world where we see nature as living, like kids take a flower and see, oh, look at this flower, look, it's living. Or they see an animal and they really like empathize and they can imagine themselves as animals and all of that. That runs in the background. And as adults, maybe in our dreams and, reflections, we're there. And then you have the analytical state of mind, which starts to grow when you're 2, and it's still growing. I'm using it right now. So I don't see the hidden folk right now here. So, I'm deep in my analytical mind at the moment. So I think it's really important to make this distinction so that we can understand mythology in general.
Definitely, and we don't talk about this very much because we take so much for granted that our analytical, rational mind is us. And we have taken this up to that point that we are sort of talking about my mind and body as separate beings. And sort of that is very much in our intuitive sort of sense of the world, what life is all about. And that's why this creates quite a big problem when we start talking about mythology. And it's so deep rooted in us, this idea of this sort of supremacy of the analytical mind, that we tend to always, before we even give the benefit of doubt to, like for example, a mythology. We already have that intuitive interpretation that okay, it's just a tale.
Yeah.
It's just a dream. It's just something. It's not rationally confirmed.
Yeah.
So sort of that is so intuitive that at least for me it has been a long process to sort of observe, and then also by hosting and participating in rituals, sort of slowly rewriting that the intuitive instant sort of feeling when you hear about mythology or somebody talks to you about hidden folk is not that okay, so now you tell me that tale, let me now rationalize what could it mean.
Yeah, exactly. And the sort of intuitive sort of conclusion usually is that okay, these ancients talked about some hidden folk. It's kind of childish, right? They must have been a little bit stupid. And that's why they would talk like this.
They didn't know better.
Yeah, they didn't know. Now we have all this, like I probably quoted this before, but I love it. The late and great John Anthony West said, we're the crown of the evolution because we have 3-striped toothpaste and nerve gas. So, this is our, sort of peak of humanity. And the Asians didn't know anything. And this was, and this is funny also, when talking about this sort of childlike state of mind versus this adult or rational state of mind, is this that when we tend to think like this, that there's nothing we can learn from the ancient people, like nothing at all. Like there was just superstition and really like horrible times for humanity, and now it's the best. So children usually think that parents know everything. So there's everything to learn from the parents. And then at some point they notice, oh, really, they don't know that much. I know more. And, they start to go to YouTube or whatever. But these ancient people were childlike in this sense, that they thought that their ancestors knew everything. And if they just get this shred of that information to themselves, that's a life like well lived. So in this sense, if I would think like I'm, say, 10 years old or 15 years old, and I went to different kinds of rites. Our community would take care that when you're 1, you know this. When you're 5, you know this. When you're 10, you know this. And now I would be in the point that I would read, say, or somebody would sing to me about, if I would be in Ireland, for example, about leprechauns. And I would have to make sense of this. So what's my options at that point? Well, there's not many options. You ask your parents, or you ask the uncle, or the wise guy at the village, or the stupid guy in the village. You have maybe 5 or 6 people who you can talk to. And what would these people share when they would talk about this would be, my father, my mother taught me this, or I met this man or this woman here who was singing this. And, I think, they said to me like this, and since my lived experience has showed me this is the case, I can give it to you. So it's a very different kind of world where that's your only source of information. And now we have all kinds of sources of information. And, when it comes to mythology, I would say like 90% of your resources are pretty unreliable because there is no lineage of any sort, and you have to sort of reconstruct everything. So in the worst case, you don't even have any sources. You're just sort of vibing it, thinking about what could it be and creating your own theory. And that's the first generation of making that theory. Maybe in 1,000 years, this interpretation of yours, if it has survived, it's worth sharing. But I would caution everyone who was making their own interpretation. Yes, you can do it like as an artistic project or something like that. But trying to create a health practice, for example, from scratch like that, without consulting what the previous generations have done, it has its risks.
Yeah. And especially if you don't pause for a little while to look at the sort of the background, the worldview that you are projecting on these practices, because we are blind to our own worldview. We cannot objectively observe it.
Yeah.
It's impossible because it is what we observe by. So it's not possible. So we have to sort of there use that beautiful gift of rational mind that we've been given and use it as a little bit of a gatekeeper into what kind of practices we allow and what kind of rituals we allow to take over our health, and especially if we provide it to others. And mythology is really a key to happiness.
Yeah.
It really opens a world of happiness and that sort of childlike existential bliss and joy. It does provide that, but we are sort of having that intuition about it, and I see it a lot that we are frustrated with the way the modern world is. Our current times are very stressful, full of fear, full of many big things that people want to escape. And mythology and like cultural traditions provide like a little bit temptation to sort of, let me make my life a little bit happier by taking a little fairy tale there and maybe quoting a little some mythical little creatures or this, but we don't observe this worldview that we do this process with. And when we talk about something like mythology that has roots for thousands of years, for it to actually be successful, it is super important to pause a little bit. And the way it's nowadays, why these mythologies and fairy tales become like one of the two options. Either they are something not to be taken seriously, or they are something to be taken literally, because that's what our worldview provides.
That's the options. And this is my great pivot to the UFO mythology, because I've been following it for quite some while. I'm really interested in this, and now I guess it's the momentum since the whole culture is talking about whether there's life outside of Earth and all of that. And when looking at the history of these UFO sightings, we see that there's like credible sightings from about 17th and 18th century onwards. So what do we see that gets less attention when we get more UFO sightings, especially after Second World War, is leprechauns and elves and hidden folk in general. So when we have a shift in a worldview, it's kind of actually it's kind of almost laughable that previously the sort of little green men or gray men that we saw were this had a hat, like a long hat, and they would have some soot on their face and whatever you would when people would see this, what they would report. And now we have this high technology like steel and forbidden elements and defying gravity and all of that. So could it be that as we moved from this what we call like a monistic worldview, where we would say the world is a mind that has divided itself and we're part of that, we're like whirlpools in a stream, where this kind of metaphysical truths, say the earth element, the fire element, would need a symbol like this in order to sort of evoke, and it would be for them natural to think about it as a person. And then it would transform when we would come to the materialistic age to these high technological beings from the Pleiades, so it's kind of makes sense. If everything is material, then you're interested in what kind of metal alloy is this flying saucer made. And if you think about this 50s and 60s, where it was sort of the heyday of this technological worldview, this materialistic worldview, then you get really hyped up and you get actually hundreds of thousands of sightings around the world. So what I'm thinking is it just that for us, mythologically, it makes a lot more sense that somebody who's guarding us is this high technological culture. And in the ancient times, it would make sense that the ones who are guarding us are our ancestors who still live with us. So it's just merely that we have a need, this childlike need for the mythology still, but it's just that our worldview is different and we just can't help ourselves. We still need to have some kind of lore. And then, of course, you have these hardcore people who would say, okay, no leprechauns, no hidden folk, and no UFOs. There's nothing like that. There's only material things and, extraordinary, claims require extraordinary evidence and all of that. But I think those people are minority. Most of the people have some kind of, at least a mixture between these, thinking like, do I believe in something like a leprechaun? And this was interesting. I was in Ireland, and it was very interesting to delve into this topic because they very much believe in leprechauns in Ireland and Iceland as well when I was there. So maybe it's something that is actually deeply written to our psyche, that we need some kind of this sort of guardian of the elements. And it's just maybe our elements now are steel and electricity and that kind of stuff.
That's what our world view gives us, because we are observing through what is familiar to us, and obviously then things come through that lens what we have, and a very interesting thing when you were talking about this leprechauns and different types of then UFOs or angels or whatever it is that you make your that sort of common sense interpretation of your world experience of. But in Finnish, traditionally we have talked about the concept of väki. And that can be translated as folk.
Yeah.
It can be also translated as power, energy,
strength.
So many ways.
Yeah.
But it does sort of describe this what you were talking about very well, because it has also gone through a transformation of the meaning. When you look at a little bit older descriptions, it had more of this connotation of being this sort of like there was a väki of the forest, väki of different elements, väki of the river, and it provided this childlike, in a very positive way, childlike possibility to interact with the life world, and sort of having that experience that this is different types of folks you are in constant communication and sort of interdependence relationship with. And this word nowadays is more than in a context of being like a crowd or people in certain place or the folk of this area. But that's in the modern Finnish.
Yeah.
That has been sort of the use.
Yeah, like folks come here, it's like väki, tulkaa tänne.
Yeah, or the folk of this house or
talonväki. Yeah, right.
Or how much is there folk in this place? Paljonko väkeä täällä?
Yeah, right.
So sort of, but that still carries that idea that it is sort of the not impersonal personification, but it is sort of a chance to experience a world that is alive and you can have interaction with. And then there are these when you look any religion or any kind of institution, and what I have found that even people who sort of see themselves as maybe atheist or don't want to believe in mythology, in their words, but they may still then experience a connection with animals or maybe trees. It's they don't maybe address it as how would I say, as this personification or this, but they have that feeling of it. So what I found that most people, when you dig under what they say, they still have that, because it is so innate in us to have that sort of sense. And then it just, in different times, based on different cultures, we put it into different words, but also we put it into different experiences. Yeah,
right. That's actually a very interesting point, because the thing is, what we can relate to is other people. So it's like, it makes sense. That people would say talonväki, like the people at the house, because you can relate to them, and the ancient mind could relate to the nature as a whole. And then it would just be intuitive to use a sort of a human-like figure to make sense of it. And I've been lately thinking about this about like knowledge. Like how do you gain knowledge? Because nowadays we gain knowledge through science. So we have this very empirical method. We look at what we can see with our senses, and then we try to make sense about that. and we tend to think that's the only way to get knowledge. But on the other hand, in our private life, we all know that we get knowledge from intuition and dreams and all of that. And a lot of like top scientists have said that their best breakthroughs were revealed to them in a dream. So we just sort of act like this is the case, that we can only react to like or interact with concrete things, but that's not actually the case. And this one evening I was there at the smoke sauna, and I've been when I'm in that state, it's usually quite late at night, and not the most analytical state. And lately I've been quite tired. Spring tends to do that in Finland when it's minus whatever, and then it's +5 and sun shining. It's like crazy. So you get quite tired. And then I'm sort of drowsy and, almost falling asleep sometimes. I almost fell asleep sitting outside of the sauna in -2. It's like crazy. So, but this sort of tends to take my analytical mind, sort of mute the analytical mind a little bit. So I'm almost like following my own practices in there. And one of these practices that I noticed that I have started to do is open the door of the sauna when I'm leaving. I open the door, and then I even take sometimes picture and put it to Instagram when all of the löyly is, or the steam of the löyly is just pouring out, and it's quite a beautiful sight actually. And I'm also like most Finns, I'm sort of conditioned to this sin of opening the door of the sauna. It's like if you have the door of the sauna open for 10 seconds, it's like close the door. Yeah, but we tend to say here when we guide people with the löyly is like, if it's too hot, you can have the door open and pour the löyly. Like I did actually last night. I had a very hot sauna, so I opened the door and poured the löyly because of the thermal mass, which is in the upper part of the sauna. It doesn't matter with that. You just get fresh air from the below, and it's actually quite nice. Mm-hmm. So now I'm thinking like, why do I intuitively do this as the last thing? And then I started to think that there's so many songs about paha löyly, like that you want to take the bad löyly out. So throw the bad throw the bad löyly out and in for the good löyly, and so on and so on. And then I'm thinking like, what could that be actually? So you would have a song which would sort of maybe refer to the nokilöyly, which we throw in a smoke sauna when the hot stones are full of soot, and you throw a lot of water to clean them up. That could be a paha löyly. But also, when thinking about a log sauna, if you've had a long night of sauna, a lot of löyly, so that means a lot of water vapor, like hundreds of cubic meters, maybe thousands of cubic meters of water vapor. And if you don't make sure that you get that out, it means, it will be there. It will not necessarily dry during the nighttime, because if it's cold, then the logs, take the cold air inside, and then you have the hot air inside, and it's not good for the logs. So you will actually get mold in the logs. So what I'm thinking is that maybe I'm actually, pleasing the tonttu of the saunatonttu. So the sort of sauna leprechaun in the ancient language, I would say. I'm saying, yeah, I throw the paha löyly out for the saunatonttu to enjoy the last löyly. So that they have a nice, not too moist löyly, and and at the same time it has a very practical meaning. So I take care of the sauna. So this is one of those revelations for me, that whenever they would talk about this crazy spot on things like that it actually makes sense even for the analytical mind, there's also the mythological background. So the mythology is not just this thing that you tell to the children and you want for your health culture to sort of be on that basis and so on, but it also has this very practical meaning, that which means that if you want to take care of the sauna, you better know the mythology. Yeah. And you can use that mythology if you understand it, and you don't use the analytical mind too much. you can derive practices from that mythology. What would you think about this?
Definitely, because mythology is on all levels, and especially our northern cultures. We are up in the north where life is all about surviving.
Yeah.
So we don't have, we haven't had the luxury to develop very lavish and very complicated rituals.
Yeah.
We have stick to the basics, and our mythology really describes that. Where we, be it about the tonttu or haltia of the sauna, the things that we the kind of rituals we derive from those mythical tales, they are really super practical. They are in the essence, but the beauty of the mythology, when you take the level of mythology into these practical things, it gives us this, in Finnish, imagination is mielikuvitus, which means like mind picturing or picturing of the mind.
Yeah, that's right.
So it is when you give that mythological level to your practical things, you connect this to the eternal and your very physical, concrete experience. You connect and you combine them, and you make sacred your very practical doings.
Yeah.
And that is the way we like what I've really gotten from my children as a gift is this incredible gift of this imagination. I don't know if it really goes as well in English, but the Finnish word for imagination really describes it, how with these practical things, when you make them into rituals by adding this mythical layer, you're really changing the way the world looks for you. Your mielikuvitus, the way your mind pictures or makes the world into experience and images.
Yeah.
Very
indeed.
bad translation, but
no. But that's because that really makes me think about this sort of sauna boom that we have now. And I even sometimes, my American friends ask me whether they could call their mobile sauna company or something like Sauna. Like they think maybe it's a cultural appropriation and so on. I always say, no, of course not. It's a universal culture. You just take what you like and use it as you like, and you call it sauna, of course. But on the other hand, there is this idea of, if you have a fitness sauna, where the elements are not present at all. And also because of the state regulations, you need to do this and that and that. You cannot have a wood-fired stove, and you need to have insulations here and there and all of that. You cannot use water in the sauna, all of that. So then what mythology are you actually using in that? I think it's the mythology of control. It's the modern mythology where they think that if I just let go, something terrible will happen. And I'm lately been thinking how blessed we are in Finland, for example, that building a smoke sauna actually doesn't require a permit at all. You can just put a smoke sauna on your yard and just start using it. And it's probably the only country, Estonia maybe has the same, but just a few countries in the world have this kind of very lavish attitude towards sauna. And lately I've been seeing some articles in the newspapers saying, it's a Wild West, we need to control this. But that's a really big problem, because this lack of control, of course, if you're a responsible person, you make your own controls. But this lack of control allows, for example, us to study these elements in their most pure form. So whenever we have somebody coming for the sauna training and they go to the smoke sauna and they're like, this is the real sauna, I need to have this is the real sauna. And then after 5 minutes of talking, they say, no, the regulators will never, ever allow anything like this. So they would have to do it in secret, probably, if they would do it. And that's illegal, and, then you're in a big trouble. And another example, I was just thinking today, on our Wednesday sessions is actually that our swimsuits is optional. And we were a little bit worried whether this is going to work or not when we started, but it's worked perfectly because we're in Finland. So it's like you use a swimsuit and the other person doesn't, so no problem. It's your choice. And people haven't complained at all. And in some countries, this is illegal. Actually, in some countries, highly illegal. So in this way, in this control culture, you remove this very important, ancient, old, even metaphysical connotations that has metaphysical connotation with this element of sauna, which is nakedness. So this is like our modern culture has a big problem of embracing sauna culture in its real form. And a lot of it, I think, it has to do with control, and it has to do with our worldview. Our worldview is a very sort of, we want to control this, control that, and so on. And if we don't control, chaos ensues.
Yeah, because we see the world as a machine, and machine requires control because it's a structure and needs to be controlled.
Right.
But this is where the mythology comes. That's why I love to speak to people about löyly, the soul and spirit of sauna, because I think the only medicine for this control and the concept of controlling is that not that we just, drop everything and nobody takes responsibility.
Yeah.
But it's more that the sense of responsibility would be internal, out of respect. And mythology really gives us that. When we have the tonttu that we want to honor, we will not be reckless with our smoke sauna. Or when we have the leprechaun or the spirit or the angel or the elf of our water, we will not be, wasting it here and there and getting everything molded. Mythology brings that sense of responsibility. It sort of awakens our inner sense of responsibility, and then we don't need external control.
Yeah, right.
Because it is internal. We want to respect.
Yeah, just to think about the smoke sauna, you want to clean it. You want to make sure that the ventilation is fine. You want to respect all the elements. And if you like, you can say, I'm doing it for the tonttu, for the saunatonttu. Why not? It's just some people. Like it's true. It's true. Some people might think you're crazy, but it's true. But the other words to use that is, yes, we use this and this kind of broom to collect the dust from this and this corner. The water pH level is blah blah blah. So you can use many kinds of languages, but you're essentially talking about the same thing, about building your own practice and your own sort of way to honor this wisdom traditions. And just trying to live in this modern life. This mythology has been done in a time where it's been a completely different world, and now just what our mission is to try to take a look whether we can actually learn from the ancients for this modern age. And I think creating a hyvä löyly and throwing away the paha löyly is at the core of that. And just because thinking the world as a machine, thinking about ourselves as machine has a price, and the price is extreme stress and sense of purpose, meaninglessness. I think, thinking the world as not having an intrinsic meaning, and so I think it's just in the end, it's kind of a slight shift. It's just giving the chance to this. Say sauna runes. And I've been noticing in our trainings when we, for example, start to sing, and people, they maybe start with a very simple one, terve löyly, terve lämmin, something like that, singing that. They don't necessarily sort of grasp the cultural context where these songs have been sung. They don't understand the language and what words could they use. Could they mix a word, because the rune singers would do this all the time. They would take their own favorite word and replace what they learned from their parents and so on. But still, they get this slight shift. It's like the pause before the löyly when they're singing. And that slight shift might be like truly like revolutionary when it comes to your way to perceive the world. And I think just this, even singing just one verse in a language you don't even know, is the first step in this kind of process. And then, of course, if you're crazy enough to want to talk about this to other people, then you need to study the philosophy of mind and so on and so on. But in the end, just like you said, everything that the Finnish culture has ever produced before the modern age has been practical. So there's no metaphysical sort of concepts that don't have a practical meaning. And the same goes for these Irish people. There was an interesting story about this. It's just a fascinating place. Hello to the Tignalus guys, and thank you, Peter, for taking me there. I think it's the Hawk Hill, ancient site. It's a place where 4,000 years there hasn't been any agriculture, nothing, just sheep herding, and a fascinating place. They would find thousands of artifacts in there if they would dig. And the young lad who was an archaeology student, and he was taking us there, who was also the son of the owner. And he was saying, my uncle had this idea of, now I'm going to go and check out what's here, because there's like stone circles and all of that. Mm. And the first shovel sort of pick that he did, there was like a pouring rain, like pouring. And it's just, he was like, okay, yes, the leprechauns don't like it. So let's just leave it at that, I'm not going to do it anymore. So whether it was the leprechauns who like it or not, this was a very practical sort of way to make sense. And I love the Irish people for this, that even they would be completely atheistic, but they would still say, don't mess up with the leprechauns. You don't want to do that. And usually, if you do that, it's not like something bad happens if you do that. So it's more like you get, in this case, for example, it's not a good idea to dig there. It's a unique place in the world where there hasn't been any archaeological digs. So even if you would do it, you would want to do it very in an official manner and all of that. So if you do that and you get a pouring rain, who cares if it was just a random coincidence or whatever? But you would make sense with this. Mm. And in that way, you would make sense that. And I love the fact that they would tell this story to tourist groups so that they, in their family, this maybe lives for hundreds of years, this story. And that sort of would make sure that nobody would dig there and this beautiful place would be completely preserved. So in this way, any culture that would use this hidden folk metaphysics would actually start to make good things because of that.
Yeah, you become responsible of the world.
Yeah.
You and in a happy way.
Yeah.
In a very, very joyous way. You sort of want to take that responsibility on you, and nobody externally needs to be there controlling and policing you. So that is really, mythology has this power to make a world a better place.
Right.
Cliché, but still,
yeah.
it is a fact.
Yeah.
Because we've lost this contact. We don't anymore have contact to our ancestors, to our roots. We've lost the mythology from our lives, and we have reduced life into a machine-like state. So I feel that mythology has the keys to bring back that magic into life, and very practical magic, which brings then that you have, again, you find yourself with a lot of meaning and a lot of purpose, and when you have meaning and purpose, you have responsibility, and you don't anymore try to escape it, but you really want to embrace it and give your gift to the world.
Yeah, and at the risk of sounding a complete kook, I do want to add the UFO mythology to this, because I do think that it is possible to do also with this modern mythology, which is the sort of craziest of the crazy, mythology of our age. Because there's a theory actually that extraterrestrial beings are not extraterrestrial at all. But I was reading this one blog post where there was this, he's a respectable scientist, and he was suggesting this idea that, okay, so if we would think that the Earth has been here for 4 billion years, what are the odds that there would have been sort of a high technological civilization, say 100 million years ago? And then he would study how long would it take for the tectonic plates to completely mash everything so that you wouldn't get any metal or nothing like that. And he came to the conclusion that it would be maybe 100,000 years, 200,000 years. So who knows? Maybe there's this, these balls in the sky would be this civilization that just wouldn't use a body anymore because they've been here for such a long time. And this is the funny part. Why would we see them now? Well, since the 50s, we've been starting to do nuclear tests. So if they would live, and this is the theory, they would live under the ocean, under the ground, and they would say, hey, humans, you guys, do whatever you like, but don't blow those stuff in our roof. We don't want that. It sort of disturbs everything. So please stop that, okay? So if this would be true, and this is very hypothetical, I'm not at all convinced. But anyway, it could be a possibility for us to be responsible stewards of this planet by not blowing nuclear weapons, you know. So we could then please the UFOs, our modern hidden folk, by just doing this simple thing. You know, you can do whatever you like, but don't do that. So it would even extend to the sort of modern mythology that we have. So responsibility and, you know, letting go of control and finding the true responsible sort of guardian of knowledge would be the task of this modern person, like we are, you know. So yeah, whether you know, whether we want to please the UFOs or the hidden folk, the end result is the same. Gotta be better people, you know. Yeah.
More hyvä löyly.
Yes, indeed. And not to forget that löyly is a part of our soul. So what we're doing is it is our soul. So we're invoking our own good soul when we're pouring the water to the rocks. Yeah, all right. Wow. You know, this is topic. Maybe we'll do a third episode on this.
And fourth and fifth.
Yeah, because this is a really doesn't empty itself in 1 or 2 episodes for sure. And hope you liked it, our listeners. And again, must say, if you do like our podcast, I love the fact that you're leaving comments. Liking, subscribing, maybe even putting that notification on so that you see when new episodes come in. And
maybe sharing your own encounters with the hidden folk.
Yeah, right.
We would love
to hear those. Yeah, definitely do it in the comments, or you know, send us a message in Instagram or emails. If you have any suggestions for episodes, then you can also reach us through those ways. And of course, saunatonttu.com. You can go and check out our Heritage Sauna Academy courses. We will have an intro course in April.
April next is
and then the retreat on in June, and it's filling up fast.
Looking forward to seeing you all here.
Oh, and one more important thing. If you have a sauna somewhere or a spa or something like that, we would love to come to your spa or sauna to train with you. So if you do want to learn the saunatus, you know, we travel as well. So you can always approach us and you know, we can talk more. So thank you, Laura. Kiitos.
Kiitos everybody.
And until next time.